Okay, so have you ever seen somebody do a cool trick on YouTube or something like that, and you'd be like, "Man, I could do that. I could do that." Well, that's kind of like what they were doing. They did this. They watched Dad do this awesome thing with the offering, and they kind of like, you know what? We could do. Come on, Ahab. We could do this. And they put fire into their little cesters and incense into it and offered up a burnt offering. But guess who was the offering on this time? They were. So when the fire came out, it killed both of them. Yeah, but not on purpose. They were just, I think they were just, the way it was, I think they were just trying to maybe see how to do it, or they were trying to do what Dad did. But, you know, this is God they're messing with. So when they did their offering, it killed them. And the reason why, if you go down a little bit further, it says that their offering was profane because it was not what God had commanded. Now, God had asked them to do things in a certain way and not them. They took it upon themselves to do it their way. But God wants a certain thing a certain way, and it has to be done right. And this is why I wanted to get this done. I wanted to talk to you guys before we start to go into our worship time, before we start to offer up offerings. Because when we talk to God, that's what we're doing. When we're doing our time alone with God, that is our offering up to God. Now, another person, if you go all the way back to Genesis, Cain and Abel, Cain offered up something that was profane. No, he didn't do his brother. He didn't give God the best. He didn't give God the first fruits. And you know what? God rejected it. Now, Cain didn't die, but he was mad and he killed Abel. And he was mad because his offering was rejected. This time around, these were priests. These were God's people. God was like, what are you doing? And their offering wasn't rejected. It actually killed them. All right. So when we get into our alone time with God, when we start to offer up our time as an offering, or our mindsets, when we start to offer our hearts as an offering, guess what happens? You actually get to experience God's presence as it consumes the offering. But if it's offered the wrong way, it can turn against you. If you come to God's on your own terms, now God says, I am holy. And the reason that it killed his sons, because they didn't come at it. The offering didn't recognize them as being holy. Set apart and consecrated towards God. So it became profane. Now, profane means this. When you have something good and in your mind is good, but guess what? It wasn't all good. The motive was wrong. If you do something nice for somebody and be like, okay, I need $500. I took out your trash, thanks. I need my money. That is not a good deed, is it? No, not really. Really, you just performed a job. And guess what's going to happen to the person that you said, I need a 500? They're probably going to get mad at you. And this is what happened with God. God is like, okay, I need offerings. Well, you're supposed to do offerings up for the sins of the people. And when they did the offering, it was done wrong. And God's like, no. And it killed them. Here's another thing. When we offer up our offerings, remember what, if you read down a little bit further, God has to see it as holy. So we have to have Jesus involved because we're not holy. Just think about it. If you do the things that you do and then you go to God and say, okay, God, this is my offering. Now, a lot of people, when we get into our worship time, you'll see a lot of kids running around. You'll see a lot of kids kicking each other, playing, making all kind of noises. And then once you go into God's presence, you know what? If this was the old days, they would be killed. It wouldn't be funny. Because you have to approach something holy with holiness. So if you didn't take it seriously, if you didn't say, okay, I'm coming with God, I'm coming before God, I got to get straight. I got to get right. But we have Jesus. So when God sees you, he doesn't see just you. He actually sees Jesus in you. If you have him. That makes all the difference. So when you come before God with your offering, it's not rejected because he sees Jesus in it, his son. Is that understandable? So, Braxton, you can put Our Father on. And when we get into our alone time with God, when we start to listen to God, remember the beginning before prayer is a two-way communication. Two-way. It's not just say, I'm going to come before you and you're going to listen to me, God. You can turn it down just a little bit. You can't just come before him any old kind of way. This is God you're talking about. You have to approach his holiness with holiness. So what we usually do is take this little time right here, singing, praising, and worshiping to get ourselves right before God. Okay? So what I want you to do is to get before God and really get into his presence. Get into a mindset that you're going to hear from God. Approach him with holiness. Okay?